Israel is the only country in the world which automatically and systematically uses the military courts in order to prosecute and detain children. It does this to about 500 to 700 children each year, and it doesn't do this to all children. It does this only to Palestinian children. Now, I know from visiting the occupied Palestinian territories and speaking with international lawyers who are trying to highlight what is going on in this process, that the reason why this happens is because this process is part of an armoury of administrative policies designed to sustain the military occupation of Palestine and to break the resistance to it. That is why we've heard stories from other speakers about arrests in the middle of the night, children being arrested, 90% of them being handcuffed, 80% of them being blindfolded, 80% of them denied access to a lawyer. Blatant abuses of civil and human rights. But the most pernicious aspect of the system, it seems to me, is the way it has built into it the futility of protesting innocence. Because once in that system, once in it and denied access to family or to lawyers, any young child, when confronted with the option of either pleading guilty and being released in a few months, or defending their innocence and being told they will be held in detention then, perhaps for several years until they get their day in court, is bound to go for the former option. That is why we have statistics coming out of this process which show that 80% of those who sign a confession in a language they do not speak and do not understand. And the most worrying statistic of all is that of all the arrests that are made of children in the occupied territories, 99% result in conviction. Chair, that statistic alone ought to ring alarm bells. My colleague John Howell from the United Kingdom spoke earlier in this debate. I disagree with John on this question, but he talked about statistics related to English civil disturbances in 2011. And he said that out of over 1,000 arrests, there was a result of 168 periods of detention, 16–17% in that case. Imagine if out of 1,000 arrests in England, 1,000 people had went to jail. I think John Howell would be a little bit more concerned. I think we also need to be concerned about the breach of Article 49 of the 4th Geneva Convention and the removal of young people once in detention into Israel itself, so that it is difficult, sometimes impossible, for them to get visits and support from their family and friends. That is also a clear breach of human rights. Now, Chair, a lot of people have talked about balance in this debate and not taking sides. Balance means that we apply the same standards and criteria to all parties in an argument. It doesn't mean that we accept there is an equivalence of claim. The Palestinians claim the right to having their homeland. Israel claims that it has a right to military occupy the same territory. These are not things that have an equivalence. These are not things we should regard as balancing one another. And anyone who does say that is not taking a balanced view. They are taking sides. And Chair, when it comes to the question of breaches of human rights, we shouldn't be asking whether or not it is right to take sides. And we shouldn't be getting ourselves into a situation where the world wonders what side we are on. This institution, as it has done for 70 years, should be unequivocal and should stand up for the defence of human rights and liberties wherever they are, including for the children of Palestine today.
Thank you, sir.